Mr. President.
Here. Please rise for the pledge invocation by Councilmember Ben Gregg.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Lord, help this council continue to make good and wise decisions. Help this city continue to move forward in spite of the challenges, and help us understand that the best way for us to grow is for us to do as Dr. Martin Luther King said, we need to live together as brothers and sisters or perish together as fools. Amen.
Amen. City Clerk certifies publication in Daily Record, the official newspaper of the City of Omaha, on January 31, 2014. Notice for a pre-council and regular City Council meetings February 4, 2014. A current copy of the Open Meeting Act is posted in a white binder on the east wall of the Legislative Chambers.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Omaha City Council. This meeting is conducted in public and by law may only address the topics listed on the published agenda. The council will hear testimony but will not engage in debate of issues with the public at this meeting. During testimony, it's not appropriate to applaud or convey disapproval. These actions only detract from the formal decorum of the meeting. At this time, please turn off or mute any electronic device. And we have two announcements here today before we get started. One is, in case he's watching at home, I understand it was City Clerk Buster Brown's birthday over the weekend. So we want to wish him a happy birthday and also wish him a speedy recovery. We think he'll be back with us here in the next week or two. And then secondly, we have a number of students here with us today to observe and have an interest in city government, which we appreciate. The students are from Good Shepherd Lutheran School, so welcome to the Omaha City Council. Wait for the cameras there. There you go. Nice job.
Say something?
Sure.
I don't know if you know it, Good Shepherd Lutheran Elementary and grade school, junior. I guess you go up to 8th grade, right? And I'm your city council representative in your neighborhood. And how do you like your new building? Are any of you in the classrooms? All right. So working out well? A little nod? There will be a quiz at the end of the meeting. And our library director will be administering it. Welcome.
Thank you. Mrs. Clerk.
Zoning ordinances on final reading and planning board attachment. Mr. President, we can take items 5 through 7 together. Item 5 is an ordinance to rezone property located at 1915 Jackson Street from DS Downtown Service District to CBD Central Business District. A is Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. Item number 6 is a resolution to approve the preliminary plat of La Tour located at 1915 Jackson Street along with attached conditions. It's over from 11414 for publication and public hearing. Had publication. A is Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. Item 7 is the resolution approving the plat entitled La Tour located at 1915 Jackson Street over from 11414 for publication and public hearing. Had publication. A is Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearings on agenda numbers 5, 6, and 7 are today. Proponents, please.
Doug Kellner, 10836 Old Mill Road, here on behalf of the applicant. Available to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearings closed. Mr. Jerem.
Yes, Mr. Kellner, if you could come back up. I had a constituent that apparently objected to the planning board, and I guess I didn't know enough about what was the proposed business use for.
Right, I think he had some concerns about parking and whether it was parties all night type thing. Is that
right? What is
the one?
What will this be if it comes to fruition?
It's a catering business, and I believe they will have some wedding or have the potential to have some weddings, but I think most of it's they're planning to go to the location of the wedding or whatever.
And as I understand, is that 1915 currently a is it the Hive, or is it a parking lot there?
There's a building there, and then there's. No, I'm not too sure to be honest.
I wasn't in a position really to say much because I didn't see it in the application, other than it was an indoor entertainment, and wondered what it was.
It's for weddings and that type of gathering.
Thank you.
Thank you. No further lights?
Motion approved.
Roll call.
Gray.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Melton. Pauls. Thompson. Gurnett. Mr. President.
Yes.
Ordinances on final reading and planning board attachments. Item 8 is an ordinance vacating the east-west alley between William Street and Woolworth Avenue from 66th Street east to the west right-of-way line of the north-south alley. A is Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing on item number 8 is today. Are there any proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Motion approved.
Roll call.
Gray.
Yes.
Jerem. Melton. Pauls. Thompson. Gurnett. Mr. President.
Yes.
Item number 9 is an ordinance vacating the northwest corner of Regency Parkway at Pacific Street as detailed in the attached Exhibit A. A is Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing on item number 9 is today. Are there any proponents? Any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Second.
Roll call.
Gray.
Yes.
Jerem. Melton. Pauls. Thompson. Gurnett. Mr. President.
Yes.
Pursuant to City Council Rule 7H, due to no meeting being held February 18, 2014, agenda item numbers 10 through 11 shall be laid over 3 weeks to February 25, 2014 for publication and public hearing. Liquor. Item 12 is the application of Midwest African Supermarket, 4644 Dodge Street for a packaged liquor license. It's a new application, new location. You have received communications opposing the application.
Public hearing on item number 12 is today. Are there any proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Please come up. Are you in favor or opposed?
Favor.
Okay. These are proponents. And your name and address for the record, please.
4644 Dodge Street, Omaha, Nebraska 6832.
Great. And your name one more time?
It's Stephen House.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents that want to speak today? Seeing none, any opponents? We'll close the public hearing. Mr. Jerem.
Yes, good afternoon, Stephen. I've had a couple constituents ask me about what your intended business will be and why you felt you needed liquor and how that would work. And so I said I would ask some questions of you to find out what your business plan is and why you feel like you need liquor sales at that location.
Well, I did my research before doing this. I've been working on it for almost 2 years to get that location. And so I look around, I don't see any school very close to it, and I see it's on the main street. And, I think it's a good idea for me to go for it. And my plan is, to have my American dream, and do what is good for our economy in the city. And that's all about it. So everything that will be my activities. So I will be selling it, but there will be no consumption in the premises.
Now let's talk a little bit about the items that you'll be selling. Some stores that are smaller in nature have found that by selling single-serving containers of liquor, some people call them airplane shots. They're 50-milliliter bottle containers, and they're single containers of beer that they have in an iced cooler right by the cash register. That it's very profitable to do that. But what we've found in that neighborhood is that people take those items out and then they're quickly consumed in public on the sidewalk, and then there's litter around the store nearby, and then there's people with public intoxication and urination. So and that was one of the concerns that was expressed to me by one of the neighbors just to the north of where your proposed location would be. So I said I would ask you to see whether you intend on selling single service containers of 50-milliliter bottles of distilled spirits, or the under 32 ounce and less beer containers, singles. I'm not talking about 6-packs or 12-packs or cases of beer or half pint or pint size distilled spirits or greater. Just talking about the little airplane shots and the single service cans of beer, 12, 16, 20, 32 ounce.
Well, so I intend to sell those, but I also have a view of the place that I will be doing business. So Easy Street Mall, and we have other businesses around there, and some of the businesses has a camera around, and I intend to sell it, but I will also be very careful if I see someone doing this, and then I would ask them to leave the premises, and I don't think they will be doing that in that main street, so it's on that. And, so it's up to the city. If it's something that you think I cannot do, I will not comply with it, but I intend to do that. Apply for a license for a full cap.
So if I could interrupt you to see if I interpret what you're saying correctly, is you intend to sell those items at your store, but you intend to keep an eye on things to make sure they don't get out of control?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's kind of a unique situation because your competitors who have obtained liquor licenses in the last 4 years have agreed to a condition in that neighborhood where they would not sell off-premise containers of 50 milliliter containers of distilled spirits and single-service containers of beer under 32 ounces and less. So if we were to give you permission to do that or recommend to the Liquor Commission that you have permission to do that, some of those other businesses who've agreed to that as a good neighbor might come back to us then and say, well, why did you approve it for Stephen when you wouldn't approve it for us? Do you understand the situation we're in?
Yeah.
So I'll ask you if you would voluntarily consider not selling 50 milliliter containers of distilled spirits and 32 ounce or less serving containers of beer.
All right, so I would also want to know, so it looks like my competitor down the road is CBS. That could be the closest that I will be competing with. I don't know which is the other over there.
4664 Dodge, your probably nearest container is competitor CVS Pharmacy to your west. At 48 something Dodge. Right?
Yeah.
And they don't do the single service. You also have a nearby competitor at 40th and Cumming who's agreed to the no single service. You have the Walgreens that's agreed to that. You have Baker's. So I don't know what the will of the council will be, but I think in my personal opinion, I don't have a problem with you having your business and selling alcohol. But if you're not going to be willing to agree to restrict the sales to over 50 milliliter containers for distilled spirits and greater than 32 ounces and no less than 6-packs for beer, then I personally could not recommend in support of that. But the decision is yours on what you wish to do. Would you agree to voluntarily restrict to those items under those conditions, or do you want to test the mood of the council, so to speak?
Well, as I intend to go to business, I don't want anything to stop me doing it, and so if that's the problem, I will agree.
All right. So I'll ask you if Mr. Mumgard can come down for a second. He's our city lawyer. If he could just make a record of what our agreement is.
Excuse me. Tom Mumgard, Deputy City Attorney. I think typically what we've been saying is that the recommendation would be for approval conditioned upon a limitation that no single serving of beer less than 32 ounces would be sold. All the beer would have to be sold in 6-packs or 12-packs, 24-packs as that comes from the manufacturer, and that no single, I'm working off of memory here, single package of spirits less than, I think, half pint, I don't remember how many milliliters, would be sold. We would make that recommendation to the state, and then they would put that as a condition on the license, and any violation of that condition would be grounds for termination of the license.
Correct. And I think that, and I'm not very good at the metric system, but I believe we've said less than 175 milliliters, which covers the 50 milliliters.
What I would recommend doing is you go ahead and make your recommendation, and then I will get together with the applicant and put that in writing and have him sign it and send it to the commission.
So, Stephen, would you come up and confirm your agreement to that?
Yes. I
Thank
agree.
you. With that understanding, I would make a motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Gregg.
Let me cancel because the question was answered. Thank you. I just want to cancel.
All right.
Thank you.
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Gray,
Yes.
Jerem,
Yes.
Melton, Pauls, Thompson, Gurnett.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
It's granted with the conditions on a 7
Good luck,
to 0
Steve.
vote.
Thank you.
Mr. President, we can take items 13 and 14 together. Item 13 is Smash Burger Acquisition Omaha LLC, 12330 K Plaza. Request permission to appoint Tony S. Oldfield, manager of their present Class I liquor license location. Item 14 is Smash Burgers Acquisition Omaha at 7204 Jones. Requesting permission to appoint the same individual.
Public hearings on agenda numbers 13 and 14 are today. Proponents, please.
Tony Oldfield.
And your address, please.
My address or the store's address?
Either one's fine.
1313 8th Street, Auburn, Nebraska.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Motion approved.
Roll call.
Gray? Jerem? Melton? Pauls? Thompson? Gurnett? Mr. President.
Yes.
They're approved 7 to 0.
Thanks.
Any member of the City Council may cause any item placed on the consent agenda to be removed therefrom. Items removed from the consent agenda shall be taken up by the City Council immediately following the consent agenda in the order in which they were removed unless otherwise taken out of order as otherwise provided by City Council Rules of Order.
Public hearings on agenda items number 15 and 16 were held on January 28th.
Second.
Roll call.
Gray? Jerem? Melton? Pauls? Thompson? Gurnett? Mr. President.
Yes.
It's passed 7 to 0.
Public hearings on agenda items numbers 17 through 29 are today. If you wish to address the City Council regarding these items, please come to the microphone, indicate the agenda item number you wish to address, identify yourself by name, address, and who you represent, and if you are a proponent or an opponent. See none, public hearings are closed.
Motion approved.
Roll call.
Gray? Jerem? Melton? Pauls? Thompson? Gurnett? Mr. President.
Yes.
The resolutions are adopted 7 to 0. Item number 30 is a resolution to approve the amendment to the Townsend Investment LLC Wall Street Tower Omaha Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Project Plan located at 1416 Dodge Street, 1441 Capitol Avenue. Over from 11414 for publication and public hearing. Had publication see attached.
Public hearing on item number 30 is today. Proponents, Ms. Hadley.
Good afternoon. City Planning, Bridget Hadley. Before you is an amendment to an existing TIF project, the Wall Street Towers project, that has been non-performing for quite a few years. As you recall, this particular site proposed, and this is the site in orange, has two different addresses. The 416 Dodge Street, I should say Dodge, was the former address of UP, Union Pacific Railroad's headquarters. What was proposed was a very high-rise tower, mixed use, again, non-performing, and we've had a local developer step forward who has a proposal that would finally get this site redeveloped. So this amendment serves to do two primary things, and that's to get local control that will then eventually get this site redeveloped when there's been so much other redevelopment, as you can see, of major corporations in the city of Omaha. At in that area, and then also to do some cleanup of some legal and some financial issues. And I will defer to the attorney representing the developer to go through the particulars. But this particular amendment is in the city's best interest because it facilitates the redevelopment of vacant sites in downtown Omaha, the city's center and image center. This approval of this particular project plan will allow for the transfer of the project site to a local developer with the ability and strong desire to redevelop the site. It will, again, as the plan proposes, have a high rise of at least 10 to 25 stories. It proposes between 10 to 40,000 square feet of retail, between 5 to 8 floors of parking, all within the one structure, between 10 to 15 floors of office space, and between 3 to 5 floors of residential that could be condominiums. And so with that, I know that it's a concept, but with this, I would ask for your approval.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Mr. Jobin.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the council. Larry Jobin, 11440 West Center Road, appearing on behalf of the applicant, which is in this case DT1 LLC, which is really a single-purpose entity formed by Omaha Development. Really here to answer any questions that you might have, but what this does is it cures a number of things for the city, and also at the same time gives Omaha Development the ability to go out and market this property and try to come up with the development or combination of the developments that Bridget was referencing. I mean, we don't have anything lined up. I guess that's the key right now. But the next time you see this will be a redevelopment agreement with an actual development in hand. But the idea here was to, number one, get it out of the hands of not really a developer, but just a property owner in Kansas City that really had no interest in developing this property. They did at one point in time, but they've clearly lost interest and it wasn't moving forward. So that was the first thing. And with this approval of the redevelopment plan, the amendment to the redevelopment plan, the existing redevelopment agreement and promissory note will be terminated and canceled, so that's gone. And so the next time we are before you, it will be with a new redevelopment agreement, with a new redevelopment note being issued based upon the proposed development that's moving forward. The other thing that it did is there's $320,000, from my understanding, that was used by the downtown redevelopment fund to improve Capitol Avenue. That won't be reimbursed yet, but when and if there's this redevelopment agreement in place, that will be one of the requirements in the redevelopment agreement, that the downtown redevelopment fund will be reimbursed by the $320,000. Also, there was a sidewalk improvement district formed by the Public Works Department to improve the sidewalks along Capitol Avenue, and that's about $76,000. It's actually a lien on the property right now, so when Omaha Development acquires the property, that will be required to be paid by the seller, so the Public Works Department will be reimbursed there as well. And then, of course, I think it's referred to as Lot F, where there was this Wall Street Tower showroom. There was some litigation involved in that. One of the requirements based upon this agreement with the Kansas City people is that that litigation would go away as well, and I think it has at this point. So it really cured 4 problems for the city. At the same time, it gets it in the hands of a local developer that can actively market this for something great, hopefully. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. And I'll commend you on not calling it Wall Street Tower anymore.
No, we're not. I've been insisted by Jason Lanahaw to no longer refer to it as Wall Street Tower. So.
And if approved today, that'll be official, right?
Yes.
All right. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Second.
I would just add to, before we vote, Ms. Hadley, just so folks know, this obviously does clean up a lot of legal and financial issues, as you both described, and that's very positive. Also, part of the challenge with the last owner was that it's a key property in the city and a key property of the future of downtown, and the city no longer really controlled what happens there. But this puts it on better footing, too, in terms of having a local developer with a vision, but we'll control what that vision looks like and what actually happens there, whether it's 10 stories or 25 stories. when we go back through a process of redevelopment agreements and redevelopment plans, right?
That is correct. We know it is in the developer's best interest and his desire, rather, to perform as described in the plan, but also through the redevelopment agreement that we negotiate, the city negotiates with the developer, we will have some ability to have some specifics in there to make sure that the project does occur as designed.
Great, thanks. We all hope it works out too. There's a motion and a second. Roll call.
Gray? Jerem? Melton? Pauls? Thompson? Gurnett? Mr. President?
Yes.
Resolution is adopted 7-0. Item 31 is a resolution to approve the Nickel Flats Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Project Plan for the redevelopment project site located at 1015 North 16th Street. It's over from 11414 for publication and public hearing. Had publication.
Public hearing on item number 31 is today. Proponents.
Bridget Hadley, City Planning. Before you again is another TIF redevelopment project. This is technically in the north downtown location, but on the very northwest edge rather, and abutting another project plan area or plan area, which is the North Omaha Village revitalization plan area, which covers more of this area going west and a little bit north. This particular Nickel Flats project is located here. This is 16th and this is Nicholas. And you can see it's surrounded by a few other properties which were TIF projects, the Fairfield Inn Suites, the Holiday Inn Hotel, and of course the Tip Top building, which are apartments. This particular project the developer proposes to invest for at least 67 apartment units, and the total investment is close to $10 million. That's about $9,177,000, and to build a residential building with commercial on the ground floor and then parking on the ground floor underneath those residential units with some parking behind there. And so that's about 50 parking stalls, and these will be 1 and 2 bedroom units. The commercial space on the ground floor will be more so office at this time, and in fact the owner is taking up tenancy there right now, but it will be retrofitted so that if in the future a retail space could go there or retail tenant could go there, it will be retrofitted for that as well. So right now the tenant is going to be or is housing there right now and showing strong vested interest in developing that particular community and at that location. It was the Diamond Dye building and will be completely razed to the ground and constructed new. And it will be 5 stories, 67 apartment units. And with that, I would ask for your approval.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. Mr. Gray.
Thank you, Mr. President. I guess first of all, Bridget, how close is that to the? There's a salvage yard near there, isn't there?
Right here.
Okay.
I think this is the salvage yard you're speaking of.
Yeah.
Sienna Francis is right here.
Okay.
Sienna Francis house.
Okay. Is there any plans for the salvage yard? Is that going to still be there for a while?
I have not heard of any plans.
Okay. All right.
We understand, or they understand that's a challenge, but I have not heard of any plans.
Okay.
But it's not stopping them from moving forward.
Okay. One other question, though, that I have, and that probably not for you, but maybe for Todd Fitzer or Bob, one or the other. I've heard a number of concerns about truck traffic on 16th Street, and I think it's 11th Street, and some of it on the Nicholas area there. Is that truck traffic temporary because of work being done, or is that permanent truck? Because I've heard a number of complaints there.
Todd Fitzer, Public Works. That truck traffic today is routed there permanently. We have an ongoing truck route study. We've heard the complaints as well. We've met with the chamber about developing in that area. There is no easy solution. I will warn the council that regardless of what comes back from our study, it may be costly, or they may come back and tell us that the trucks are best off where they are. We are aware of it, but right now that is a designated truck route, and it is serving the way it's intended to.
16th Street?
Well,
Is
the
that-
trucks come down 11th Street,
Come down 11th
from the
Street.
tank farm area down to Nicholas, and then
Yep.
down south 16th to get to the interstate, yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. I just wanted to know because there have been some concerns about it, and I just wanted to address it today before we get a developer that's interested. I mean, I think he needs to know all of the facts, before going in. And if he's still interested, that'd be a good project for it. Thank you. Thank you, Tom. You're welcome.
Thank you. No further lights?
Yes.
Is there a motion?
Motion approved.
Roll call.
Gray.
Yes.
Jerem. Melton. Pauls. Thompson. Gurnett. Mr. President.
Yes.
Resolution's adopted 7-0. Item 32 is a resolution approving the 1,118 acres of the North Central Omaha Community Development Area is recertified as blighted and substandard, and that the proposed 24-acre study area with census tracts block group 63.01-01 northwest of and adjacent to the North Central Omaha CRA is hereby declared and meets the standards as substandard and blighted area in need of redevelopment. It's over from 1/14/14 for publication and public hearing. Had publication.
Public hearing on item number 32 is today. Proponents, please.
City Planning, Bridget Hadley. The project before you, or the proposal before you, is to actually amend an existing CRA, or Community Redevelopment Area, that's already been designated. It was designated in 2006. What we did is we're amending it to add to that area. We were approached by a developer who wants to develop this site here. And this site is outside of the existing community redevelopment area. This purple, if anyone has looked at the GIS, this purple represents where the existing CRA area is. And so this is just outside of it. So what we decided we could do is just amend this to add this particular area. And so in your packet, you have one of these as the maps. So the blue represents what is already a CRA, or a community redevelopment area, and that's about the 1,118 acres. So what we're doing is we've done a study to just recertify that this still qualifies under the community development law to meet the blight and substandard conditions, and it does. And then at the same time, take a look at this particular area to see, does it qualify and meet the conditions of blighted and substandard, and it does. So it's just about 24 acres that we are adding to the existing CRA. So it's just basically amending the North Central Omaha CRA to add 24 acres. And again, it's because we have been approached by a developer who wants to develop this property, and they want to use TIF. And the first step to use TIF is the project site has to be in a community redevelopment area, formerly known as a blighted and substandard area.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Ms. Hadley, before you leave to and the next speaker, on the map there, I think I noticed that the current area includes the 60th and Ames intersection, right?
This one?
There was another map you had up there that went down that far.
Probably this one. This is just another version.
Yeah. The lower corner there, that looks like the 60th and Ames intersection is already included in that blighted and substandard designation.
This is 60th here,
Okay.
and just to make sure, this is Ames Avenue. So yes, this much of the intersection is included already.
Okay.
So it's not the complete intersection, but I think it covers the commercial corridor.
Yes, there.
The west, this is 60th Avenue.
Okay.
60th Avenue going all the way up, and then this goes back to 60th.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
Next speaker.
Neeraj Agarwal for the developer, 105 North 31st Avenue. Just wanted to kind of just convey that TIF and the CRA designation is key to developing this area. It's been there for a while, and other developers have approached it, but I think major issues in developing the site have prevented them from actually doing anything with this actual site. And TIF is really necessary to address some issues that are at the site, specifically removing buried debris. That's on a significant portion of the site. So I just want to convey that and answer any questions the council may have.
Great. Thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Motion approved.
Second. Roll call.
Gray.
Yes.
Jerem. Melton. Pauls. Thompson. Gurnett. Mr. President.
Yes.
The resolution is adopted, 7-0. Appeal, Ray bid rejection and resolutions. We can bring up items 33 and 34 together, but we will require two separate motions. Item 33 is Sharon Wajcat, representing Municipal Pipe Tool Company, LLC, appeals the rejection of their bid of December 18, 2013 on OPW 52562RN, multi-site sewer lining CIPP project. Item 33 is a resolution awarding the contract with SAC Construction LLC for OPW 52562RN, being the multi-site sewer lining project in the amount of $2,667,731.50.
Public hearings on agenda items 33 and 34 are today. Are there any proponents?
Mr. President and members of the council, my name is Scott Peters. I'm an attorney and my business address is 233 Pearl Street in Council Bluffs, and I am here on behalf of the appellant.
Thank you.
Hand it to the clerk.
I commend you all for being able to talk about parking lane studies with a straight face this afternoon.
Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Thank you. What I've presented you with is several exhibits related to this appeal. The first exhibit 1 is a timeline of events. This project was bid back in December. My client was one of, as I understand it, 5 bidders. My purpose today, hopefully, is to save the city of Omaha $72,000. My client was the lowest bidder. However, in my client's bid submittals, they failed to include SP documents. My client included all other documents, but not the SP documents. The timeline then goes to the same day, December 18th, after bids were closed. There was a letter from the GSM Pierce that all bids were over the estimate and inviting further bids or action. The next timeline item, January 6th, the OPW letter from Priner. Your bid has been reviewed and is being recommended to the City Council. That's Exhibit 2 in your packet. On January 15th, however, OPW wrote my client another letter from Stubbe. Your bid is non-compliant and rejected. That's Exhibit 3. On January 23rd, my client filed its notice of appeal, including all those SP documents. And then, of course, today, last item, we have the hearing. The basis for this appeal is that the old bid packet was almost unintelligible, and that my client should not be faulted for failing to include those SP documents. This is a copy of what I have called, for purposes of this hearing, the old bid packet. 115 pages, not consecutively numbered, and if you would look to the index, which I'm not going to ask you to do just for time's purposes today, the index, the table of contents rather, it is not in any sort of chronological or numbered or other order that might be intelligible to an intelligent bidder. And the reason I've included this table of contents page for you is one of the first things that we learned in law school was the Latin phrase expressio unius est exclusio alterius. And that means in contract writing, the expression of one thing implies that other things are not included. And what do we have here on exhibit number 2? At the bottom, capital letters, bold, very large. Note, all P pages must be filled out and submitted with this bid. Nothing mentioning SP or any of the other attachments. Subsequent to this run-in problem debacle, the bid package has been entirely changed. This is the new bid package, which goes out to potential contractors. 38 pages. Very succinct, very to the point, easy to understand, easy to fill out. The other problem with these so-called SP documents is that they are buried way in the very back, actually on pages 80, I think I number in here on the exhibit, 83 to 85 or 84 to 86 or something like that. And actually the volume of documents required in the old bid packet, substantial. This is the SP documents that my client submitted as soon as they knew that they had overlooked this on January 23rd. That's what they have to have. What do we do in the new bidding process? The new bidding process makes all of those SP documents optional. Now, is this relevant, what we're doing now and what we did back then? Yeah, I think it's relevant because it shows that this was enough of a problem that we changed it. And the way it works now is if a contractor is invited because of their bid, they can then submit all those SP documents, all these documents, rather than inundating the Public Works Office and et cetera with 4 or 5 different copies of all this stuff. If you look at exhibit number 2, this is simply the letter that I mentioned where the bids were still over the engineer's estimate, and that's, you'll see where I derived the $72,000, the difference between my client's bid and the next highest bidder, SK. I thank you very much for the time to speak with you today.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents that want to speak today? See none. Any opponents?
Good afternoon. I'm Heather Tippy Pierce with the Omaha Public Works Department. I am speaking in opposition of item number 33, which is the bid appeal. Some interesting information that was presented today to you I have not had access to, but I do want to forward to the council's attention that this bid, as all bids do, go through an extensive amount of review and many levels of review. At one level of review, the last level of review, the engineer's review, it was determined that according to the special provisions, the apparent low bidder, Municipal Pipe and Tool, had not submitted all of the required qualifications. That is what that bid rejection was based on. In the documentation, there were about 20 items that were required. This is a sewer lining project. It's a pretty critical project to our overall long-term water quality goals, and so we had a number of requirements that were very specifically in section 7 of the special provisions identified as required at the time of bid. They were not, of that, one table was submitted. We have 4 other bidders, including in item number 34, our recommended contract recipient, SAK, who were able to submit that documentation. So at this time, we ask for the council's denial of the appeal in favor of the recommended award recipient, SAK, and I am here for any questions you may have.
Thank you. Are there any other opponents today?
Good afternoon. My name is Kerry Shaw from SAK Construction. I'd just like to request humbly to ask the council to reject the appeal and award
the project to SAK as was prior presented. We adhere to the rules that were in place as of that time, and we understand it, but we'd like to have the rules changed and to be more simplified in future contracts because they are quite involved. But in this case, like it was presented, there were 3 other bidders that did follow the rules, and yes, we were the second in this case, but we'd like you guys to reject the repeal and award it to us. We just went through a similar situation down in Kansas City on almost $3 million bid where we were the low bidder, and we failed to apply one paper maintaining that our MBE requirement that was in there to clarify what we had. We had one document we failed. We put it in the second day. Kansas City rejected it. There was a $200,000 separation between the parent low bidder and the second one, and Kansas City upheld it too. So I'm appealing to your integrity to maintain the same bid documents as was when we actually put together our bid. Thank you.
Thank you. And your address too, just for the record?
Pardon me?
Your address, just for the record?
Oh, my address is 9618 High Drive, Leawood, Kansas.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other opponents today? Seeing none, public hearing is closed.
Motion to deny the appeal.
Mr. Jerem.
Mr. Kratz, are you back there? So, on behalf of the city legal, what would be the city's position or vulnerability to if we were to award this appeal, uphold the appeal, and a bidder like SAK or any of the others, and particularly SAK's position, they complied with all the requirements of the bid. If we were to uphold the appeal, would the city be vulnerable to a claim by that SAK for purposes of not following the bid?
Paul Kratz, City Attorney. Yes, we would be vulnerable to some type of claim by the bidder. I might add also that we have always followed our bidding rules very strictly, and if there's any omissions or incorrect statements made in the bid documents, we do eject those. It's a consistent practice of the city.
And that keeps the city out of the courthouse, so to speak, with regard to bidders who follow the bid specs and follow the rules.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I think we've had some very good arguments from Mr. Peters, but I think that, as I see it, if the other bidders had not followed and figured out the protocol and the requirements for the bid, I probably might have some sympathy towards your client's position. But in this case, all of the others were able to follow the protocol and submit the paperwork that your client didn't. So to be consistent with what I've done in other cases, I would probably support the motion to deny. And I don't know if there's a second yet, but I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second. Roll call.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem? Yes. Melton? Pauls? Thompson?
Yes.
Gurnett?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
The appeal is denied on a 7-0 vote. And on item 34?
Motion approved.
Second. Roll call. Get together.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem? Yes. Melton? Yes. Pauls?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Gurnett? Mr. President?
Yes.
Resolution is adopted on a 7-0 vote. Pursuant to City Council Rule 7D, the public hearings on agenda item numbers 35 through 37 shall be held on the third reading. Ordinances on second reading and Planning Board attachments. Item 38, ordinance vacating 4th Street from Abbott Drive south to the south right-of-way line of Kansas Avenue as detailed on Exhibit A. A is Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing on item number 38 is today. Any proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 39 is an ordinance vacating 113th Avenue from Bel Air Drive north to the terminus of the dead-end street. A is Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing on number 39 is today. Are there any proponents? Any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Ordinance is on second reading. Item 40 is an ordinance to accept the bids from Navarro Lawn and Landscape for areas 4 and 6 and Nebraska's Best for area 2 for ground maintenance of city right-of-ways.
Public hearing on item number 40 is today. Are there any proponents? Any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 41 is an ordinance declaring necessity of appropriating for use of the city described property located at 2613 North 18th Street for subsequent use as a site for implementing the consolidated submission for community planning and development programs for year 2013 action plan and approving an agreement with Janet Harris to acquire the property for the sum of $6,075.
Public hearing on number 41 is today. Are there any proponents? Any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 42 is an ordinance approving an agreement for the transfer of city-owned real property and to enter into an agreement with Holy Name Housing Corporation to convey 5 properties for development of single-family homes for the sum of $1.
Public hearing on number 42 is today. Are there any proponents? Any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 43 is an ordinance approving a redevelopment and tax increment financing loan agreement with Triple C Development Incorporated to implement the Triple C Development Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Project Plan located at 2601, 2617, and 2619 North 16th Street and 1518 Ohio Street.
Public hearing on number 43 is today. Proponents, please.
Bridget Hadley, City Planning, here to answer questions if you have them.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 44 is an ordinance to amend the existing Class B flammable liquids storage district B162 at First Data Resources 10910 Mill Valley Road as requested by Scott A. Altick.
Public hearing on number 44 is now. Are there any proponents? Any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 45 is an ordinance to establish a new Class B flammable liquid storage district to be known as B181 at 7302 Pacific Street as requested by Scott A. Altick of First Data Resources.
Public hearing on number 45 is today. Are there any proponents? Any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 46 is an ordinance to amend Section 23177 of the Omaha Municipal Code concerning employment classifications by adding the classification entitled Assistant Director, Omaha Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Public hearing on number 46 is today. Are there any proponents? Any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 47 is a special ordinance levying a special tax assessment for cutting and clearing weeds, grass, and worthless vegetation, group number 2014-01.
Public hearing on number 47 is today. Are there any proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 48 is a special ordinance levying a special tax assessment for the removal of litter, group number 2014-02.
Public hearing on number 48 is today. Are there any proponents? Any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Pursuant to City Council Rule 7H, due to no meeting being held February 18, 2014, the third reading and public hearing on agenda item number 49 shall be held on February 25, 2014. Pursuant to City Council Rule 7C, the public hearings on agenda item numbers 50 through 52 shall be held on the second reading.
Motion to go into exec session to discuss the negotiation.
Second.
Roll call.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem?
Yes.
Melton? Pauls? Thompson?
Yes.
Gurnett? Mr. President?
Yes.
Your statement, Pete, that you're going in for.
Go into executive session to discuss labor negotiations.
Look at 3:45.
Just give up.
Ready? Yep. Yeah.
The council is now coming out of executive session where we only discuss labor negotiations.
We need a motion to come out of, got a motion to come out of executive session.
Second, roll call.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem? Melton? Pauls?
Yes.
Thompson? Gurnett? Mr. President? Motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned. Second.
Gray? Jerem? Melton? Pauls? Thompson? Gurnett? Mr. President? Thank you.
346.
Yep.